What is up, YouTuber and viewers? This is Tyco Barber Trail, and this is part 2 of the rare Tyco train cars that you need to find. So this is part 2. Instead of focusing on the cabooses or the other maintenance, instead we're going to be focusing on some of the main freight cars. I got the Barber caboose here. I got the Barber. Oh, this Barber is a profile picture. If you see in my last video, I posted. And this is also Defying Gravity. The car is here, but if you stand the car up here, magically floats on its own. But and this is not the subject. We're going to put that here. And where we're going to start today is an engine. Just joking, not a rare engine because I'm going off topic here. But this is an Illinois Central. It's a rare GB20. We're going a little off topics here, so we'll shut all the way down there. But currently, first is the boxcars. But unlike with the boxcars, you have one boxcar here, and you have another boxcar here, which I'm going to show a little later. But with these cars, they have a very special action on the top. With this slot right here, this is known as the animated brakeman car. I said brake the wrong way last time, and I apologize if I said it wrong. It's supposed to be B-R-A-K-E, not B-R-E-A-K. There's two different brakes, but brakeman car sounds a little bit better for this particular car. But underneath, there's like a rubber band kind of mechanism. But with the Toronto, Hamilton, Buffalo, and the Missouri, and St. Louis with a little mini brakeman, what happens here is with the two rubber band wheels, they spin, and it causes another rubber band to spin, which spins the main one, causing the brakeman to move. But if I have a piece of track right here, but just joking. So how it works is if you put a track on a different clockwise position, if you move it around, the brakeman actually moves. If you can actually see it since the piece of track is from the Illinois Central. And it also works the same as the Toronto, Hamilton, Buffalo. But I don't have any rubber bands in here. But speaking of, with this car here especially, both of these cars are actually considered rare Tyco animated pieces, is because with this one is probably much more valuable since this car only appeared in a few brakeman sets, especially in 1963 and 64. They had this on two different kind of sets, and they also had this in 1962 and 63 too. The specific car of the animated brakeman car. But with the story in St. Louis in 1959, they also introduced an earlier model too. But with this symbol and this symbol clear, but this is filled in with the white. But with this one here, with the little brakeman, it's considered much more valuable. But with the rubber bands, though, they're not original. It'll be much more valuable if all the rubber bands are original and if it's in the original box too. But here's the brakeman car. Now for the traveling reefers across the country. Just joking, but we have a 1961 Milky Mars Way reefer. I'm gonna say Milky Way, but but it was Mars Milky Way. But with this car here, this car only appeared in one set in 1961, a New York Central set with a Barber caboose, and this car was the reefer. And this is from the original Candy car, but this car has an extremely strange color. It's like a glossy brown color, and this is probably the only color of a car that I've seen that has this specific color. And this is only 1961 this car was produced. And it's similar to the color you find on the Candy. But this is similar to like a Candy car, but with that, we have another car. In 1961 and 60 and 61, they introduced the craft car, cheese and mayonnaise. But in 1960 and 61, this car was actually found in a couple of Mammoth the Rail sets and a few Southern Pacific shifter sets. But with this car right here, this is also another rare car, and it's also original too with the top. But it's either way, and it's also a really cool car. I got the chocolate at the end, but just joking. Well, with this car right here, with the stock car known as animal transportation, or the stock car, you get this car right here. But with this car right here, the only a few versions and a couple sets, they have the Missouri, Kansas, Texas X is labeled right here, but a few other versions have a rare version of the Atlantic East Coast. I don't have that in my collection right now, but in 1960, 1959, and 1961, they introduced car in a few couple sets, but this car here actually appeared in the famous Union Pacific Member of the Rail set back in 1959, and this car is also extremely rare too. Also, on a quick note, the doors actually do open. But a few times this part right here changes. This is silver, but a couple times it changes black. But right here you can see the opening. And a little fun fact, you can also do it on the brakeman cars here too. I just burped, but you can see right on the inside. And along with the little brakeman who's sitting on the top here, you can also open the doors too. And if you look on the top, you can actually see the rubber band. Along with this one here too. You see the rubber band. Well, with some of the other following boxcars, in 1961, this car actually appeared in only one set. It was the Near Central boxcar. And with this car only appearing in one set, this car is actually highly valuable. And this car is also a little bit in good shape, but it's still a really rare one. But for the other boxcars, this is the only kind of car that has this turquoise aqua green. Aqua green. That's what I'm gonna say instead of saying something else. But with this one, this is actually really rare. But another car that actually appeared in the set, but it only appeared in a few Montua and Tyco sets. It's in their catalog books. Is this car here, the Tyco Elgin Joliet and Eastern Railway. This is a particular Chicago railway that used to be in Chicago, but with this car here, this car actually appeared in only a few sets. And if you have a 1960 Tyco catalog, if you look on the top right, you'll see a shifter set, and if you look really closely, it has this car right here. And when we're trying to buy it, this car is actually extremely rare. And this car was actually made by Tyco, but this car actually was made by Montua and Tyco, both the same company, but have completely separate catalogs. But this car was actually introduced in both those catalogs, and this one was actually introduced in a set where they have the Pennsylvania shifter with this car here, or you have it with the brakeman car right here. But along with that, this car is an extremely rare car. But in 1958, here comes another very rare car. I also showed this in a community post. It's the 1958 Rutland boxcar. Unlike the Lionel boxcar, where if this piece was filled in, it would have been a $3,000 car. But I don't have the Lionel one. I have the HO one. But with this right here, the bogies are not originals because I bought this and this one had the wrong bogies on, and these are just only temporary bogies. But with this car right here, this car is actually very rare. And if it's in mint condition, it'll be worth a lot of money too. Just like with the other cars that was included in that for the rail set, the Pennsylvania one from 1958. But either to say, this car is an extremely rare piece, and I really like this car too. And also has the black doors too. A couple years they had the silver though. But let's move on to the next one. In 1961 and in 1960 and 1961, Tyco introduced the Chesapeake and Ohio boxcar. And I'm very glad I got a car like this, because this car is actually extremely valuable. Is because this car only appeared in a couple sets in 1960 and 61. But in 1960, the car was completely different. It had a yellow shell, and it also had a blue bottom with a yellow top. But in 1961, they changed it so it had almost like a blue shell, but with the yellow on the bottom. But with this car here is extremely rare. And if you're looking at this car right now, you may think it's like yellow and black, but this is actually a yellow and a navy dark blue color, and it's actually like a really concept color, but it's actually like really cool. And I also showed this in a couple videos with some other sets. But along with that, we're gonna have two other cars, but they're gonna have a little bit of a difference. We have this car here, which actually appeared in a couple sets, the Boston, Maine boxcar, but But this one I'm going to show you in the box. I have my thumb right here because there's a sticker, but with this one right here, there's a little bit of a difference between both that car and this car right here. If you look really close at the details, you see how big the details right here. Like all the essential dates, the weights of the car, and some other logos here. But once I know the logos right here, they're like bigger and they're also like really brighter. But with this car right here, this car has like a little bit of lighter detail, and you can also see some of the build dates and some of the weight of the car. But with this right here, you can actually see some of the capacities, but it's actually in a little bit of a smaller form. It's not as like brighter as this, and it's a slightly older car, but this one's actually older than that one here. But this one here also has the bigger logo, has the exact same doors, it's black doors, and has the exact same sliders where the door can slide. But with both of these cars, both of these cars are extremely rare. But this car right here is probably a little bit more valuable since it has a much more larger logo and it feels like it's much more like much more of an update on the car. It has like much more bigger logos. But I say this one right here is like a little bit of a watered down since like the logos are a little bit smaller, like a little bit more realistic. But with this one right here, you can able to see them. It looks a little bit more cooler. But either way, both these cars are truly rare. Okay, now with the other cars, here's the loader cars, slash gondolas. But with this car right here, this is the older Baltimore and Ohio gondola, and this is a somewhere in 1957 and 1960. They also have that hole right here where you put the other culprit on. But here's what the earlier version looks like. It also has the other wheel too. It's like the flat wheel, unlike with this kind of wheel right here, which became the wheel that we know of Tyco Mantua today. Look closely. Here's the wheel, and they got the wheel right here. It's the wheel, but here's the watered down one, or the newer one. It says B&O in a larger, and along with this car here, where you can see all those little details are sometimes a little bit hard to see, but if the camera could focus, put it right here, but you see all those little details. Some of those little details are a little bit hard to see, but what Tyco done is, I think, they actually made the low logos a little bit more bigger. Like the B&O symbol is a little bit bigger than this one is because I don't know why they decided to make the logos bigger, but it just looks a little bit cool. Like you have this version here, the older version with the bogies, and you have the newer version here with the bogies. But a couple times Tyco actually put a different kind of loads in them. Like there's a coal load that goes on here, but the most common load I see was the pipes. And these pipes are actually a really common load, unlike with the bridge card or the flat card in the last video. These pieces come in 3, and you put 3. But when the other YouTuber done his, he actually put 4 of them. And I didn't even know that you can actually put 4, but since I only have 3, you can put a 4th one here. But with the regular one, you put 2 of them on either side, and you put 1 in the middle. And you can actually see it right there with all the notches where you can put those little girders. But either way, I'm going to be putting these away for the side. And for the final car, is none other than the tank car. And you may get this car a little bit confused with the Texaco tank car or the Republic car, but this car right here is actually a rare car. It's known as the Sinclair tank car, and this car only appeared in only a couple of catalogs on the cars. This car didn't appear only a few sets, but this car right here is actually truly a rare one. And the bogies too are also similar to 1950s and 60s, but this car here is actually truly rare, and it's also rare with the name Sinclair. But with the only car that I actually ever found on the Mantua and Tyco catalog, but it was on Mantua, is the Stanley, Illinois tank car. And that's the car itself. But this car is actually truly the value right here for the tank cars. But by one time, this car was only sold on the Mantua catalog, since Mantua and Tyco had the exact same company, but the company they had their own catalogs. Like Mantua had their own catalog and Tyco had their other catalog, but both of the catalogs are similar. But somehow, unlike with the Tyco catalog, Mantua had this car. But when I was checking on the catalogs, I didn't actually see this car on the Tyco catalog. like with Mantua, they also have a selection of other cars too, which are similar to this one, but somehow Mantua had this car here. But either way, this car is a truly rare one, and it also has the exact same bogies too, where the pin goes. But either way, and we have another car that may look confusing, the Tyco, but actually not. A Tyco is like a completely different company. Like, here's the car I'm mentioning. Like, it looks like a Tyco, like with the handrails and the kind of like body style and the top. But if you look underneath, it says made in, I'm not gonna see out loud, but it says made here, made China. But with the made in China here, with the other newer older tank cars, like if you look underneath, they don't have this. It's actually all hollow on here. But with another tank car here, if you look, this is actually the Tyco here. It is made in Hong Kong, which is the original place where the Tyco was made. It was the plastic version, but this car is a little bit not as rare. This car is actually common, but this car here could be a little bit more difficult to find, but this car is actually similar to a Tyco, but it's actually not almost a complete Tyco. Could be, but it's just like a little bit more confusing when you identify one of these as like a Tyco. It's like, you identify this one as Tyco, but this one could be a little bit more different. Also, happy St. Patrick's Day, since it's going to be coming up. But if you look underneath, you got this one there, and if you look underneath here, you got that one. But if we move that to the side. Now for the final, it's actually a detail you have to spot. With the earlier version of the Diamond Chemicals tank car, the earlier versions had a symbol right here. They're saying GT AX. It was this symbol right here. They had them on both sides of the tank car, which is the earliest version. I only see one, but sadly someone bought it instantly. But the other symbol they also put on was this tiny little red detail that says something soda. I'm not gonna just guess it. But with this little detail right there, a couple years later, Tyco actually stopped using this little logo. And if you look on another year, they also had that symbol missing. But this is the almost a tiny bit of the watered down, since both of these don't have that symbol on the front, but only this one and has this symbol. This symbol is considered a little bit more valuable to find, but the rarer version is if it has a symbol in the front here of the GTX side logo over here. If they have it all on four sides and they also have this symbol here, is truly a collectible. But either way, this car right here is truly a little bit hard to find, and this car also appeared in a couple other famous sets too. But with this one, this also appeared in a few famous sets too. If you look under here, there you go. But either way, that's all the trains I have on my table for now. And here's a little bobber caboose. And for the final, we bring right the LMA Central too. Since you're a fan of this unit, here it is again. Is because this is like a really rare unit. And I like showing all these different units, but here's the rare unit. But either way, yeah, I'm gonna be making a couple of videos in the near future. But give likes and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. See you later. Have a good rest of your day.